Hello, hello, hello. Welcome on in. Grab a seat, grab a tea, get extra comfy feet. Hi, if you're new here. My name is Yuki Boobuki, princess of all things spooky and oogie. But the only thing scary about me is how into Warhammer I have been recently. And today we are watching the second video in the video playlist sent to me by my friend Cast for stuff to watch about Warhammer. As you guys know, I'm doing like a posting challenge, so I'm trying to record and prep as many things in advance, get them scheduled out, and get you guys watching. We are almost at 5,000 subs. We are almost at 10 memberships, and we are almost YouTube partner tier 2, so please keep watching. Please keep commenting. And I know that a lot of you are not subscribed. Why are you not subscribed? I'm posting a lot of Warhammer. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Subscribe if you enjoy the content, and also if you're on mobile, apparently you can hype the videos. Please hype the videos. Every little bit helps. But yeah, we are watching what was the first Warhammer in Warhammer 40k. I hope that you guys all enjoy. I hope you all are ready. Strap in, buckle up, and let's get into it. Towards the end of the challenge, I will make all those faction videos. So as we get through this playlist, the videos will get a little bit longer, a little bit lengthier. And I will keep recording, keep posting, keep going, keep on pushing. That's right. Ooh. So keep a lookout for those. And thank you guys so much for being here. Let's get right into the video.
Greetings, Thunderhammers, and welcome to Codex Compliant.
Today we shall embark on a very important journey. A journey to find the very first Warhammer in Warhammer 40,000. For some reason...
Look, I don't know why we do these things either, but the question occurs to us and it's something to do, innit?
In this series, we mostly talk about games under the Warhammer brand, and I think it's easy to forget that the franchise being called that is interesting since, well, Warhammers aren't particularly important to the early iterations of either side of the brand. I mean, sure, there's 𝑓𝟟𝟝, the hammer wielded by Sigmar in the fantasy side of Warhammer, which I suppose is...
Which, by the way, are you guys that are here watching for Warhammer 40k interested in Warhammer Fantasy stuff? Because I'm super interested in Warhammer Fantasy, but no one ever talks about Warhammer Fantasy, so I feel like, I don't know, maybe it doesn't get as much attention as it probably deserves. Please leave a comment down below. I want to know.
is fairly important to the setting. We've seen people claim that that's why the game is called Warhammer. It's named after Sigmar's signature weapon. But that's just not the case. The game had the name Warhammer for a couple of years before Sigmar was even established, or the Warhammer fantasy setting existed in any coherent sense at all, to be honest.
But at least with the fantasy side of Warhammer, it's easy to point to the first actual Warhammer in it, as the first edition of the game from 1983 carried this artwork on
1983?
its box by John Blanche of the Warhammer-wielding Harry the Hammer, aka Harold Hammerstorm, aka Uthmog Elvenbane, if you want to be really pedantic about it. Interestingly, Graham Davis, who worked on the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay books that added Sigmar to the setting, has stated that the Warhammer-wielding Sigmar's appearance was based on later artwork of Harry the Hammer from Fantasy Battles 2nd edition. So that means that anyone saying the game is named after Sigmar's hammer is, well, they're still wrong. But they're wrong in a more nuanced and interesting way than may initially be apparent. It should be noted that, as well as Harry's hammer being the first one you see, the first named hammer in Warhammer was also in the first edition rules. Thobane, wielded by the dwarf 𝎟ᓟ�𝟟, which was poisoned, elicited fear in non-dwarves, and allowed its wielder to go in and out of frenzy at will, which was a lot for a weapon in an edition of the game where weapons were defined more by broad traits than having distinctly separate rules.
So, even though hammers weren't super important to the actual game, there were a couple of...
I'm jealous of how many books they have. That's not the point of this video, but like, look at all that Warhammer. Look at all that Warhammer. That's really impressive.
Prominent ones in the early materials that made the name feel a bit more fitting. However, Warhammer 40,000 is a different story, but we'll get to that after a word from this video's sponsor.
Oh, boo.
This video has once again been
Ooh.
sponsored by Sons.
Welcome back.
Hammers in 40k. In the very
Hammer.
first 40k rulebook, Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader from 1987, there was barely any mention of hammers at all. There's no artwork of anyone using anything hammer-like, unless you want to count some fairly abstract shapes as hammers, and there were no minis in the range at the time that used a hammer as a weapon. Their only appearances being as part of some orc insignia and being included in the vague hand weapon category, with no special rules or stats attached. A weapon on the same level of lethalness and importance as whatever cheap sword a random guy was waving. But
Wow.
this is not that surprising, given that, despite using rules based on and interchangeable with Warhammer Fantasy Battle, 40k was not originally intended to carry the Warhammer name. The game was intended to be called just Rogue Trader, with its development stretching back to 1983, where it was envisioned as a very different game. But as it was entering the editing phase after several rewrites, GW got the rights to publish a game based on the 2000 AD comic Rogue Trooper. In a rare case of Games Workshop deciding not to be unnecessarily confusing about something, they decided they probably shouldn't have two games simply called Rogue Trooper and Rogue Trader on the shelves at the same time.
Yeah, that I can see that. That would be really...
Rogue Trader's author, Rick Priestley,
"Some bright spark, whom I shall hate for the rest of my life, came up with Warhammer 40,000. Because of the ensuing confusion over Warhammer Battle, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and Warhammer 40,000, the full title is Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader."
So the Warhammer in Warhammer 40,000's name was a late addition, and so the weapon itself wasn't really integrated into the game beyond a perfunctory mention as one of the many objects you can hit someone with to make them dead. But I suppose it would be kinda strange if they didn't make at least a little effort to include a Warhammer or two as weapons. So how long did it take before we actually saw someone wield one? Now, you might expect one to show up in the early squat mini range or...
That's crazy to be like... I mean, I know why they would change the name, but to be like... we only added Warhammer because we didn't want them to have the same names. That's honestly bonkers wild.
Artwork, since their iconography does feature hammers fairly prominently, and indeed that
I didn't know there was
iconography
dwarves
is
in
sculpted onto some of
Warhammer.
these.
Are they not
But
anymore?
no, they don't actually.
Because
have
we did
any
watch the
hammers as
first set
weapons
of
in
Bricky
those early
videos.
days. Nor is it an orc mech with one, although a couple do show up with hammers later on in Rogue
Big
Trader.
hammer.
Nor is it a space marine wielding a thunder hammer, as those didn't exist yet. No, after combing through all the relevant old books and magazines we could find, we're pretty sure the first 40k mini to use a hammer as a weapon was the Colossus Imperial robot, released in August of 1988,
Wait, what did that say?
gaining rules in Imperial Robot.
We know this one's chaos, but there's not a lot of official images of these minis. Leave us alone!
In August of 1988, gaining rules in White Dwarf 104. It had a siege hammer as one of its arms that used the rules for a pounder, don't laugh, from a Warhammer Siege supplement, but could be used in hand-to-hand combat. And we got a few bits of artwork of it doing so, which is nice. Oh hey, there's the logo for the band Queensryche in the background there. It's weird how this is the second time we've seen that logo snuck into something in this series. Anyway, we do quite like how there's no elbow on the siege hammer arm, so that thing would just have to swing around wildly to hit anything. You know, basically this. Also, although the Colossus was the type of robot who had this siege hammer by default, many others could take one as an option too.
I don't know, on some level I don't know if this counts as a proper Warhammer. It is a hammer used in war, absolutely, but I kind of feel like somebody needs to be wielding it rather than it just being attached to a robot's shoulder joint. This is more of a siege weapon. Now, I wouldn't argue
I think
with
that's a
you if you called
technicality.
this the first 40k Warhammer, because it kind of is, but we'd like to see one that's a little bit more traditional. And so we continued our search until we found this 𝑓𝟟🟩 mini with a Warhammer from February of 1989, although calling it an 𝑓𝟟🟩 mini is simplifying a somewhat fuzzier situation. Despite releasing a bespoke 𝑓𝟟🟩 hero miniature in early 1988, When an
That's at
actual line of Ogryn
$1.95.
was released the following year, they would be mostly made of the existing C23 Warhammer Fantasy Ogre miniatures. Which made sense, I suppose, as Ogryns are just sci-fi ogres. Their very un-sci-fi appearance would be hand-waved away by saying that they simply continued to dress as they would on the feral and medieval worlds that they were recruited from. These ogres were mostly sculpted by Jez Goodwin, but a handful of new ones by Bob
Wait,
Oliver.
where's his pants? Where is his pants? That's nasty!
Included too. One of these was unambiguously actually an Ogryn, although the other Ollie sculpts, like the one with the hammer, lacked guns or other future war accoutrements, so looked more at home.
Accoutrement! It's my favorite word!
And indeed, their codes starting with 0904 do lump them in with the other fantasy ogres, opposed to the 4601 codes assigned to the actual Ogryn minis.
So the Warhammer Holding 1 is a mini that served double duty as both a 40k and fantasy mini for a few months before a more complete set of Ogryns could be released. But since it was first released under Ogryn branding for 40k specifically, we're happy to say that this is the first actual conventional Warhammer in Warhammer 40k.
But
Although, if you want to get really picky, there is technically an earlier hammer that someone could have actually wielded. It's just not a Warhammer. In November of 1988, there was a range of Tech Marines by Mark Copplestone shown off in White Dwarf 107. They are seen holding comedically large tools with a few more conveniently sized ones on their belts, along with a curious bit of old Tech Marine iconography, the Big Hand. Although, sadly, none of them had a big silly hammer, at least one of them, 410504 to be specific, had a little hammer on his belt. And fortunately we do have that one. It's even been featured in this series before, since it was painted using era-appropriate paints. So yeah, unless we missed one, and feel free to let us know if we have, the first Warhammer in Warhammer 40k...
I wonder how hard that would be to figure out era-appropriate paint for my Warhammer minis. Also, I will cycle back to the fact that, like, I looked at Warhammer minis, and they're, like, 50 to, like, couple $100 onward and upwards. And they're like, this Warhammer mini is $1.95. Take me back, I've invested in the wrong hobby. Though, to be fair, I wasn't alive in the 80s. Grandpa, why couldn't you have invested in Warhammer for your granddaughter in the future? Why? I said you did, like, I don't know, Apple.
Is either
Gosh
this
darn you.
hammer on a Colossus robot from August of 1988, or this one held by an Ogryn from February of 1989, depending on how you want to define a Warhammer. With an honourable mention to this Tech Marine's tool, Twix the Two. So our question is answered, but this does leave us with another lingering question. When did 40k's bespoke, iconic hammer weapon, the Thunder Hammer, show up?
Yeah.
The first minis with Thunder Hammers were the Thunder Hammer Terminators from September of 1989, presumably sculpted by Jez Goodwin since he did the other Terminators of the era. These Thunder Hammers were a lot slimmer than the giant bricks on sticks that would become the standard look for the weapon. Thunder Hammers were given rules in White Dwarf 116 along with Lightning Claws, and those
$1.50.
are pretty wild.
$3.50 in the US. Dang, are we balling?
Kind of deal they had for most of 40k's history. These first ones didn't have any strength at all, because any hits automatically wounded and their save modifier was -5. Meaning the only things that got armor saves at all were the things unaffected by modifiers, or Terminator armor which always had a minimum of a 6+ save regardless of the modifier. So for most opponents, just hitting them was the only roll needed before calculating the damage, which was D6 damage. I can see why in this accompanying art, this other Terminator is getting his absolutely rocked by one of these things.
Wait, that's funny.
This 6+ save.
However, the fun doesn't end there, because you could also choose to expend the hammer's entire energy supply in one go if a situation was particularly dire, or doing so would be particularly funny. A strike whilst doing so would create an explosion that not only did massive damage to the enemy, going from D6 damage to a whopping D6 times D6, but also you had to place a 1-inch radius blast marker down that auto-hit anyone caught in it with the standard D6 Thunderhammer damage with a -5 save
Wait, that's kind of
modifier.
cool though.
This would leave a permanent crater for the rest of the game, and even if the wielder somehow survived, the Thunderhammer itself would be utterly destroyed. Not only could these be given to a Terminator captain, along with the mandatory Storm Shield, which could slightly protect them from the possible explosion, but you could also equip an entire 5-man Terminator squad with them. I kinda want a full squad of these for my Rogue Trader Lamenters now. It's like every one of them is a tiny close-range volcano cannon just waiting to go off, killing themselves and everyone within swinging distance. I feel like I was playing with my orcs again. The self-detonating abilities of Thunderhammers would show up again in the first edition of Space Hulk.
So, as I'm newer, right, to Warhammer, I'm seeing a lot of newer media. So, just now learning today, on this day, that it's been around since the 80s. And that it used to look like that. It looks very silly goofy. It looks very, like, why are you guys so chubby? Why are you so chunky? Chunky, short, chunky. Like, it's definitely had some glow-ups, hasn't it? Absolutely bonkers wild. But this is so fun! I really do hope you guys like these videos and like watching this stuff with me, because I'm a big lore story guy. Alright, I love knowing the ins and outs and how things function and stuff, and like there's so much Warhammer to watch. Like, I'm happy to watch the Hammers of War. I really am. So, like, if you guys want it, like, I'm gonna watch it. And this, to me, is fun. So I hope you guys think it's fun, too. I really do. And thank you guys. If you made it this far in the video, put a WOG. I need you all to spam your orc noises in support of my orcs. My spook hit orcs.
More specifically in the Deathwing expansion from
Deathwing.
1990.
I can't wait to play that game.
Could destroy absolutely everything in their section, including themselves and the doors, which is, much like the 40k version, a very terminal way of taking your ball and going home.
Huh?
So, what have we learned by looking into the Warhammers of Warhammer 40k? Well, for one, it took a while before there really were even that many. Let alone 40,000 of the dang things. I mean, I must have personally counted 4. You really have to be this side of the millennium for them to be anything other than a fairly niche weapon. But by now, Thunderhammers have spread from just a Terminator thing, with many Marine squads having access to them, and even several Primarchs and 30k seen with special ones. Hell, you don't even need to be a Marine to get in on the action. And many hammer weapons have shown up in other factions too, not to mention units simply named after hammers. Surprising amount of them in Necromunda too. Occasionally the rulebooks even have a huge one on the cover. So basically it's a lot easier now to make a hammer-themed Warhammer 40k army, if that's a thing that you wanted to do, which, I mean, we didn't, but now the thought's in our head and we kind of want to.
I'm thinking a Hammers of Dawn army made of assault Terminator squads, led by a Smash Captain and backed up by hammer strikes and hammerfall bunkers.
Nobody said it had to be a good army.
I think this
She's
also
like,
shows how we often
don't know about that.
think about the names of things that hard when it's an already established thing. So it's quite likely you'd never noticed how rare hammers were in early 40k, because Warhammer is just its name. Sort of like how if you've watched us for a while, you probably don't think about how snipe and whib aren't really names. They're a verb and a nonsense syllable respectively. Okay, I suppose snipe can also be a noun as well as a verb because it's also a bird, but you know what I mean.
Bird.
Also, I think it's funny how few of the hammers in 40k have ever resembled actual historical warhammers, which tend to look a little small and underwhelming compared to the giant fictional ones we're used to.
What?
Well, you'd think they looked underwhelming until you had your helmet caved in by one, quickly followed by your skull. Effectiveness as a weapon and aesthetics are fairly separate qualities. Although I think the biggest thing we're left with now is a lingering sadness that Thunderhammers can no longer explode with the violence of a small sun whenever you're feeling petty.
Something for the 11th edition wishlist, I guess.
Something for the 11th edition wishlist. What edition are we on, actually? Come here. People main. Come here, come here. What edition of Warhammer are we on? I do know that the orcs are getting new figures, but tell me, share with me fun facts, share with me your lore, comment all of your thoughts, feelings, and cares. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for reacting with me. I hope y'all are having a great day, night, evening, whatever time it is for you. God bless you guys. And truly and honestly, if you are not subscribed, please, please, please hit all of the buttons that YouTube likes. Leave a like, leave a comment. If you're on mobile, hype me up, man. Hype me up. Come on, dab me up. Don't leave me hanging. And I will continue my posting challenge as we work through this video playlist with, well, a lot of videos in it. So I hope you guys enjoy them. I hope that you like them. And I hope that you're looking forward to making those faction videos. I know some of you are going to be like, Yuki, you've been talking about that for a hot minute. They're really long, okay? And I'm scared because I did get some comments about how bad my ADHD was in some of them, but I will be breaking them up into chunks. And while we break them up into chunks, we're going to slowly work through this. So yeah, I will catch you guys in the next video, whatever that may be. Thank you for being here, wanderers and spookits. Have a good time. Bookie bookie boo. Bye.